This is the Work Smart Hypnosis podcast session number 81, the Tripwire Business Strategy.
Welcome to the Work Smart Hypnosis podcast with Jason Linett, your professional resource for hypnosis training and outstanding business success. Here's your host, Jason Linett.
Jason Linett here, and thanks once again for joining me for the 81st time in a row. I'd like to assume you have listened to every single podcast session before joining me on this one, though of course I know that's not true. Many of you may be discovering this program for the first time with this recording, and if so, welcome. And if you're a longtime listener, welcome back once again. I'd give you a quick update, though, for any of you, whether you're brand new to this program or whether this is an ongoing journey for you with me, head over to worksmarthypnosis.com. Of course, all the other 80 podcast sessions at the time of this recording are there, but I just had my designer put a download button on every single podcast page. So that way, if you're not making use of some sort of podcasting app, or you don't even know what I'm talking about right now, it's never been easier to download these podcast sessions and really listen to them at your own time. You know, of course, you can stream these things directly from your smartphone, your tablet, your computer, though I'm flashing back to, I think, it would have been maybe 2006 when I was downloading podcasts and burning them onto CDs to listen to in my car. Yeah, there's an out-of-date statement. So it's like I was on my landline at home on hold with the Blockbuster Video. Thank you, John Mulaney, for that joke. So this is a solo session with just me here talking about a business strategy that I actually often make use of, and a business strategy that came about by way of a piece of advice I'd share. I've got my private business training, which is Hypnotic Business Systems. Get on the waiting list for that, by the way, over at hypnoticbusinesssystems.com. And inside of that group, there's a private Facebook group, and I'll generalize the question, but a student, Craig, in New York, was basically asking that he wants to schedule his very first hypnosis certification training. He's an instructor. He hasn't yet done his first course, and was basically looking for some tips on how to build the first class. And to really set the stage for this, I will share with you a story of something which I lovingly share the story with the subtitle of that really smart thing that I did 2 years ago that I really, really need to do again because, oh boy, it worked. And it's going to make use of a little strategy in business called the Tripwire. The concept of a tripwire, this is nothing new. Though in the information and marketing world, it's probably one of those, quote, newer big things that's out there. But again, this isn't new by any stretch at all. The concept of a tripwire is that of getting your potential customer to cross that threshold from I'm curious about what you have to offer into that place of here's my money. But rather than asking that person, as it is the case with Craig's question, was about getting someone to journey from they haven't yet signed up for anything to here's about $2,000 for a 8 or 9 day course. That's a big jump. So the story goes, it's a couple of years ago, and I offered a 2-day event called Hypnosis 101. And the concept of Hypnosis 101 was when I did it, and I'll share with you exactly what I did, and I will share with you exactly how I would modify this as well. The concept was it was a 2-day intro to hypnosis course, which at the same time, I was offering a weekend version of my training, in the Northern Virginia, DC, Maryland metro area. Big population, and it's really easy for me to fill a class over the course of several weekends. So what did I do? I, at the same time, had a class that was going on. In another open weekend, I scheduled Hypnosis 101. In the course of that, I covered a progressive muscle relaxation induction. I covered the beginnings of a Dave Elman induction. I covered suggestibility tests. And I covered the basic strategy of what I've branded as straight line transformation, which is in many ways similar to Benefits Approach with Roy Hunter, similar to the Meta Pattern for Change from the Melissa Tiers, John Overdorf School of Thought, basically future pacing by way of direct suggestion. So those are the basic concepts that I covered, as well as a what is hypnosis, what isn't hypnosis, and a little bit on NLP rapport to kind of round out the weekend. And I offered that course, if I remember back, I think I did that for a pretty low cost, like $195. And it sold really, really well. So the reason behind that was it was much easier for people to sign up for something that was a less of a financial commitment and also less of a time commitment as well. So what was the result? Well, I had about maybe 10 people in the room. And as I tracked the attendance of those 10 people, this one-time event that I did, 3 of them eventually crossed the bigger threshold and invested in the entire big course. Several of the others are now active subscribers of Hypnotic Workers, which is my digital access version of my live training. Check that out over at hypnoticworkers.com. And if I'm running some basic math in my head right now, for the investment of a 2-day weekend, I basically earned about $1,200 a day, which is pretty good, just simply marketing it to people who had already been on my mailing list. And then on top of that, add on 3 certification students, that's $6,000, plus Hypnotic Workers, the annual income from that. And basically, I'm looking at about total lifetime customer value of this 1 weekend event is now close to about $10,000. Why do I tell you that? I don't share those numbers ever to brag and boast. Instead, it's to point out that as we think about our businesses differently, we can find all sorts of other opportunities. There is no shortage of business out there. Instead, there are only shortages of strategies to help you get to where you'd like to be. So Craig asked the question about how does he establish this upcoming class? And I'd encourage the concept of the Tripwire, which to give you again, let's break it down with a very simple explanation. A Tripwire is a lower priced, lower stress entry point, which then has the goal of navigating, to use the sales and marketing terminology, into a core offer, which in this case would be a $2,000 class, a $500 product, whatever it might be. So to look at this funnel that someone would go through, let's use an example that you might not have thought about and realize this is a Tripwire strategy. I'm about 3/4 of the way through watching the rest of I Am Not Your Guru, the Tony Robbins documentary that's on Netflix, which is phenomenal. And to realize you can get a taste of what it is to work with Tony by going to Barnes & Noble, by hopping onto Amazon.com and buying any one of his books. And I'd imagine, just off the top of my head, these books are likely anywhere between about maybe $10 on Kindle to maybe $25, $30 for a hardback edition of any of these books. Realize his entire business is not just selling books, because this documentary, I Am Not Your Guru, is all about Date with Destiny, an event where there are people, well, no, everybody in that audience has invested $5,000 to be there in that audience. And think about it for a moment. Do you think people have signed up for that event cold? No. Are there people that are there because someone strongly recommended or strongly suggested and strongly endorsed they go? Yeah, absolutely. But I would wager that the majority of those people have read every single one of his books. They have already interacted with some of his products, the audio versions, the video versions. And then here comes the offer for Date with Destiny, and there they are. So take note. Perhaps you can identify ways that already here in the hypnosis profession, you have already engaged in tripwires in many different ways. I mean, there's me. I recently did a promotion of my hypnotic age regression course, which typically nowadays sells for $57. You can check that out. There's links to that over at WorkSmart Hypnosis. Though for the span of about 10 days, I did a flash sale, offered it at $17. And I will very openly share what that was. That was a Tripwire offer, which then spun around and offered Hypnotic Workers. Which, by the way, let me give you some advice here, which is actually really, really effective, which is that you hear this concept of an upsell, that now that you've bought this other thing, let me now upsell you to something else. And right now, strike that out of your terminology. Strike that out of your knowledge of what it is to run a business, and instead shift it to this mindset of an upgrade. Because I'll walk you through, let's go back to Hypnosis 101. What was the upgrade strategy from that 2-day offering? Well, the upgrade was, at this point, you have 2 methods for hypnotic induction. You have the suggestibility tests, which are awfully fun at parties. You have a basic outline of a hypnotic change process. However, what's the upgrade? Many of you want more than this. And inside of the course, you're going to learn more induction methods. You're going to learn how to customize to the individual. You're going to get the actual certification. You're going to get business strategies to get your first clients. You're going to really join an outstanding organization. And here's all the outstanding things that you get by upgrading your experience. Makes sense, right? Let's go to Tony Robbins. You've read the books. And you've got on paper a lot of the strategies written out on how you could do this for yourself. Though sometimes you need to be a part of the entire experience to really get the full value. And for that, here's the products, here's Date with Destiny, here's the business course he just recently did, here's everything. Work with one of his coaches. It upgrades the experience the entire way through. Chances are many of you engaged in my hypnotic age regression Tripwire offer. And well, now that you have the hypnotic age regression process and how to navigate through it, what do you do if regression is not the method you want to use with your client? What do you do if you need more induction methods? What do you do if your client is not sufficiently deep in order to do the techniques? And if that's the case, well, here is Hypnotic Workers. More than 100 hours of digital access on-demand Netflix for your hypnosis business training. So do you see the idea here? The idea is navigating them throughout that experience, navigating them to that place where the experience gets better and better the more that they buy, the more that they engage in the experience. Which, by the way, the concept of a lead magnet, which is the free offer for something, that's the difference. The opt-in offer on a website. I mean, on WorkSmart Hypnosis, for example, there is the offer of the Go Deep Hypnotic Deepening course, which that's available over on the homepage. That's what's called a lead magnet. That's a opt-in offer, or as Jeff Walker would call it, that's an ethical bribe to exchange your email address for something of value. I mean, webinars are a great example. Though take note that the financial transaction doesn't necessarily have to be a purchase. So if you think back, many of you have been aware of me for a couple of years now, and a few years ago, I did a webinar titled 12 Ways to Grow Your Hypnosis Business. 12 Ways. It was right around Christmas time. And what I actually did with that webinar was that it was a fundraiser. It was a $5 registration to be a member, to be a participant in that webinar event. And the outcome was that for every $5 raised, that went to Toys for Tots. And I actually did something kind of clever, and I'd say wonderfully meaningful, which is what I did was that I also matched every donation. So we had a good 180 people on that webinar event, so I cut a check over to Toys for Tots for $1,800. Now, on one side of things, I did that because it's a fantastic organization. I mean, in our modern era of all things fundraising, all things involving nonprofits, there's a bit of a dilemma sometimes that sometimes the money is not necessarily going where it ought to go. And to look at the statistics of Toys for Tots, the majority of the money is going directly towards funding this amazing cause. We'll leave out the ones that are not necessarily of that nature. Though I'd reference that I did that because it's a good thing to do. Though at the same time, let's talk business. What did I do? I added 180 people to my mailing list that were now already buyers. Here's the interesting phrase. And whether it's $5, whether it's $7, whether it's $17, and really take note that a Tripwire does not necessarily mean less than $20. No, because I very comfortably share that, yes, I have training programs that either are a single investment of upwards of $600. You can look at learnvirtualgastricband.com. There are programs like Hypnotic Business Systems and Hypnotic Workers that are ongoing membership rate programs. There's my live trainings, though sometimes there are those people who reach out to me that sometimes need that little bit of more help. And for that, that's why I offer on a limited basis, just based on my availability, private consulting, private coaching, where it kind of becomes this balance of let's do the work together to help you make that phone ring, to make you more effective as a hypnotist, which I'd comfortably say that, well, think about it. That's not going to be a $5 transaction with me. No, that kind of begins at about $3,000 because that's time away from my clients. So that is a much, much bigger transaction. So it's from this journey of curious shopper to here's my credit card. The concept of the Tripwire is, again, getting someone to cross that threshold of becoming a buyer. To tie up a bit of a thread here, what about that Hypnosis 101 course that I offered? How would I do that differently? Well, the truth is that nowadays, if I were to do that again, I would probably just make it a one-day event and make it much less money. Make sure it's still something of value. Make sure it's something where you are delivering wonderful value. And chances are, you might be like me on this, you are currently actively making use of a beautiful Tripwire business. Groupon, Living Social. Now, admittedly, I've only ever done Living Social once for my business. Though, think about it. I am actively, ravenously making use of Groupon and Living Social just for my personal life. My wife and I are going to Washington, D.C. this weekend. It's right up the road. And we're going to see a comedian. And before it, we're going out to dinner. So what did I do? This is romantic. I hopped on Groupon, and it turns out there's this outstanding Italian restaurant. And perceived value is, I think it said $180. But basically I think I bought this thing for $47. 3-course dinner, glass of wine for 2. And there aren't many restaurants you can get that kind of experience. Now, what's the business model of this restaurant, though? They're banking on the idea that we're going to have an outstanding experience and we're going to come back for more. As I've shifted a lot of my health goals into strength training, my protein intake is definitely up. And my favorite shop has become here in the Alexandria, Springfield, Northern Virginia area. Little shop by the name of Springfield Butcher is always on Groupon. And I'm able to buy that $17 voucher, which gives me $30. And on a regular basis, that's my more affordable source of high-quality foods. And granted, it's kind of difficult to go in there and only spend $30. So that's their Tripwire. That's their foot in the door of the strategy. So what's the other example? My daughter Claire is about 5 years old. It is 5 years old. And there's all sorts of after-school activities, weekend activities, where what's the benefit? We can sign her up for this 1 week of karate classes. And for 1 week, she gets the outfit. She gets to take as many classes as she wants. We get this night out for parents where they give us a voucher for the restaurant next door. And you get this incredible offer for like $27. That's a Tripwire. Because what are they banking on? You're going to have an outstanding experience. Your daughter's going to love going there. And now here's the monthly membership, which is quite reasonable at, I think it's like $80 a month. But they're building that entry point to get you in the door a lot faster. So how can we make use of this as hypnotists? Well, realize this is where selling products is an outstanding strategy. So here's your stop smoking audio program. Here's your weight loss program, and all these things you can niche down, reduce cravings, motivate exercise, have a different audio program for any of these. And the benefit is that if someone purchases this, it's doing several things. First of all, it's letting them have that user experience of what it's like to work with you before they even work with you. Now, there's a greater benefit to this, though, is that if we look at the structure of creating the sale as a funnel, it's positioning you at the end of that sales funnel, which I'll tell you has an interesting side effect. It puts you at the end of the sequence, and your value to that individual client actually begins to increase more and more the more they interact with you before they actually engage in the official transaction, which was your goal. It's the celebrity effect. It's what you might have heard me talk about as being the Willie Nelson effect, which I'd share with you, and we're going to keep this content here brief and to the point, because instead of listening to a bunch of different random ideas, which are all valuable to you, I want you to leave this audio program and take action, which I'd share with you back to Craig. Craig, if I can give you one piece of advice on your trainings. It's from day one to design your live trainings instead of being a linear 8-day course, a linear 2-day course, a linear from start to finish, but instead think of everything as being modulars. Think of everything as being modules that you can break off or splinter off and break apart. So the easiest example, you could do a 2-hour workshop on suggestibility tests, and that could then lead into the full course. You could do a 90-minute workshop on effective suggestion management. And you could actually offer that to coaches, counselors, therapists, which then leads them into why they need to sign up for a hypnosis course. Well, here's the example of my hypnotic age regression course that I offered online. That I gave that experience, but that's part of a bigger product called Hypnotic Workers. Here are all these individual examples. This is why, if you might have been aware of older products that I used to have, why I've been rebuilding them over the last couple of years. Because it's that specific strategy of allowing things to break apart as their own individual modules. It's just a side note, actually makes me more effective as an instructor because suddenly now I get a call and they want me to speak at this convention. And okay, great. And I've got all these individual modules ready to go. HypnoThoughts Live this year, I did a 2-hour on hypnotic phenomenon, which was the module of my live course, which was part of a module of the product I have, Hypnotize with Conviction, which is also a module inside of Hypnotic Workers. And I'm not having to reinvent the wheel over and over and over. I'm able to give you that little bit of a taste, that little bit of a journey into something. By the way, here's a bit of a strategy, which I'd share with you. I have not done this one, though chances are you've made use of it as well. The free book, the free video offer, but you have to pay shipping to get it. That's a tripwire. The concept being that, oh, here's my new book, and you can get it for free. Just pay $7.95 shipping and handling. When you look at one of the biggest things that's making use of this nowadays, this is a big trend in culinary services. Companies like Home Chef, Blue Plate, Blue Diner, I forget what it's called. These are all over Groupon, all over Living Social, by the way, where it's they're not quite meal delivery services, but it's where you're getting all these high quality ingredients and these wonderful, wonderful printouts that are teaching you how to cook for yourself. It's really, really a cool service. Unless you're someone like me or my wife and we cook all the time and we're just kind of going, I could have done this myself and spent less money. So it's the concept of the tripwire all over again. Because for $29, you're basically going to get 6 high quality meals. You fall in love with the company and then you sign up for the membership. All these different diet and weight loss companies, Nutrisystem, SlimFast, Isagenix, they have these trial offers where you're able to get for a low cost maybe a 1-week supply, a 1-month supply, but then it automatically renews at the entire monthly rate. So spend some time on this. Consider this idea of how can you create an easier entry point for your clients, which I'll share with you the Groupon strategy that I did when I did it. I call it Groupon even though I did mine with Living Social. I already had a packed office of fully paying clients when they reached out to me. So forgive the language, but why the hell would I bother doing a whole bunch of single sessions for an income of $14 by way of a Groupon offer? So instead, what did I do? Through the Living Social service, we offered an introduction to self-hypnosis class. And the investment for the course was $49. Valued at $175. You're able to buy it for $49. The way the math works out, my income for each person who signed up, basically the math is that for whatever the offer value you're seeing on Groupon or Living Social or any of these other ones, what happened was that you basically get to keep 45% of that. So for a $49 offer that they were selling on Living Social, my take was like $22. However, we typically had about maybe 10 to 15 people in the room when I offered this introduction to self-hypnosis workshop. Well, do the math. For a 90-minute session, I was basically earning about $350. That ain't bad. Yet from that low-cost entry point, I was able to then offer my private services. And again, think about it in terms of the upgrade. You can make use of this outstanding self-hypnosis strategy that I've shared with you. However, I know that many of you want a little bit more help and a little bit more focused attention to achieve your goals. So for that, and then from there, I detailed what my package offer was at the time. This many sessions, this much money. Though, if you want a really, really cool strategy to build some immediacy when you do this, my favorite principle is to discount what somebody has already paid. I'll explain this here. So when I did the Hypnosis 101 course, let's just use round numbers here for the sake of conversation. Let's assume and these are pretty close to it, I'm just rounding up to make it round numbers. The investment for Hypnosis 101, let's say it was $200. The investment for the 8-day certification course was $2,000. So the easiest method that I could do to build the pitch of offering the bigger course was towards the end of the class, I always want to do a recap. To make use of what you've already learned from me, you've learned how to hypnotize, you've learned this, you've learned this, you've learned that. But then you want to hint at basically what they're still missing. So what you need to know is also how to navigate the process, how to get the clients, what they'd learned from the rest of a certification course. But then I want to go for a piece of intrigue. I want to pique their curiosity by making an empowered statement. And you've all signed up for this weekend course, but wouldn't it be cool if instead of spending $200 in this course, this weekend was absolutely free? And I pause. Now I've got their attention. Because to satisfy the goal of learning all these things about hypnosis and getting certified and all these other great benefits, here's my certification course. And I hit the bullet points, I hit the features, I hit the features and the benefits of what you're going to get by signing up for the full course. And here comes the limited offer, basically. And the typical investment for that class is $2,000. However, right now it's Friday, and if you sign up by Sunday, I will discount that course $200. So it's basically as if you got this weekend for free. So that builds a bit of an immediacy. That builds a bit of a ticking time clock, a bit of immediacy to that offer. Though you can also take it one step further and spur the action even faster. And on top of that, for those of you that sign up today, here's this extra offer. Here's a CD, here's this, here's that. If you saw me at HypnoThoughts Live or NGH this year, I was basically selling 3 programs: Hypnotic Business Systems, Hypnotic Workers, and Virtual Gastric Band. And for the people who signed up for all 3 and paid in full that weekend, they got a private coaching session with me valued at $350. So call that a little bit of a bonus as we're here talking Tripwire of how to add more immediacy to your offers as well. So I'm going to wrap this up here in just a moment, though I'd encourage you, take a look at what you already do. Maybe there is a technique you teach your clients, and maybe that technique could be recorded as its own audio program, video course, workshop, whatever it might possibly be, and that might be something you can offer on a regular basis to get more people into your streams that are already motivated buyers. Perhaps this might require a little bit of thinking to consider how you can modify things you're already doing to make your offerings, let's call it Tripwire friendly. As I've referenced, that's why I've been rebuilding a lot of my content online. Though the idea behind this is, again, realizing that you can make all sorts of growth in your business simply by thinking about things just that little bit differently. So this has been the Tripwire business strategy. And I want to hear your ideas. I want to hear your thoughts on this. Head over to the Work Smart Hypnosis Facebook page. Just go over to facebook.com/Work Smart Hypnosis and leave your commentary under the posting for this session, or head over to the show notes at worksmarthypnosis.com and share your ideas, share your strategies, even share your questions there. This has been the Tripwire business strategy. See you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Work Smart Hypnosis podcast at worksmarthypnosis.com.
Jason Lynette here once again, and thank you so much for participating in this program. And head over to worksmarthypnosis.com, and in the top right corner, click the training page. And over there, you're going to see all sorts of offerings, whether it's hypnotic workers, hypnotic business systems, learn virtual gastric band, plus some of my live trainings and coaching as well. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll see you next time. Hey, it's Jason Lynette here, and I want you to be the first to know as we put up and share new videos and new hypnosis resources in the future. So do this right now. Click the button on this page that says subscribe, and you will be the first to find out as we upload new videos. See you soon.